name is Wilbur Valentine.
I'm sorry, are you talking to me?
Yes, I am.
Well, that's a first.
Do you know who I am, Axol?
Yeah, I've heard of you. You're that animal whisperer, right?
Something like that.
I assume this is about what happened, isn't it?
I want to know your side of the story.
None of them are admitting to being the killer, are they?
They all claim it was an accident.
Maybe they're telling the truth.
That's unlikely.
And yet here you are, talking to an axolotl.
So, what do you remember?
I remember the cold. The town was experiencing some extreme snowstorms at the time and the basement was freezing.
And you live in the basement? In Adrian Brown's basement?
Yes, it's where I've spent my entire life.
Are you happy living in that basement?
Why do you care?
I'm just
Do
checking.
you want to hear the story or not?
Okay, fine. Please continue.
Well, it all started on Monday when a young couple moved into my basement. It wasn't anything new to me, of course. Mr. Brown would occasionally leave and let couples move in for about a week. He made money off of letting them stay at the house.
Like an Airbnb.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what he called it. Their names were Susie and Richard, and there wasn't much to know about them. They were as bland as a young couple got, always happy to be together and all that crap.
So they weren't the first to stay at the house? There were others before them?
Yeah, they weren't the first, but none of them were more interesting than the last. And they all usually act the same. Susie and Richard were no exception.
You sound like you didn't like them.
I just don't like people in general.
So what did they do?
Well, they played board games.
They seemed like they had a healthy relationship.
Yeah, good for them. They were certainly my least favorite people in the house by far, if they actually knew there were other people in the house.
The robbers, correct?
After Susie and Richard left to go to bed, I was left alone in the quiet darkness of the basement. That's when these two teenage boneheads wake me up with a face full of flashlight in the dead of night. They started arguing with each other as soon as they got out, and I guess it's because they didn't know the house still had guests inside.
Did you get their names?
They called each other Josh and Johnny, though it was difficult to tell them apart because of the masks.
I heard this place gets intruders frequently. Had they been there before?
No, but you're right about them not being the first to break into my basement. Before them, there were other teens trying to prove that this was a murder house for a serial killer and that there's bodies hidden under the floorboards.
So are there more bodies in this house?
Are you a translator or a detective, Mr. Valentine?
Let's rain check that for later. What happened next?
Well, I guess all their shouting caused the couple to wake up, because not long after, Richard came downstairs and checked the place out, but of course Josh and Johnny were already gone.
But they came back, didn't they?
It was the next day and the sun had melted most of the snow, but despite that, Susie and Richard stayed inside playing more board games.
Adrian Brown.
Apparently, he had forgotten some of his ski gear and needed to go back for it.
And they just let him in?
Mr. Brown was a charismatic character to the public. He never appeared as a danger to anyone.
But you saw right through him.
Mr. Brown was a strange person to me. Even though I lived with him, he always seemed less human than anyone I've ever met.
Was it really ski gear he was looking for?
Of course it wasn't. But during his conversation with them, he had mentioned an upcoming snowstorm, and it really seemed to worry Richard.
The limo, correct?
Yes, when Mr. Brown eventually found his ski gear, he was on his way. But after he left, Richard told Susie that he had planned a limo driver to take them around the town. But he didn't know about the snowstorm. When he tried to cancel the limo ride, the driver said that it had skid off the road and into a snowbank.
And that's how Susie was left alone in the house.
Richard was stupid for leaving Susie alone in the house. I guess he thought of it as some heroic act or something, but that doesn't change the fact that he's stupid.
So that left just you and Susie alone in the house, right?
Yeah, but not for long, because the snowstorm eventually led to a power outage.
Must have been scary.
You should have seen her face.
You're very unhinged for an axolotl.
Well, anyway, Josh and Johnny saw Richard leave in the car, and I guess they assumed the couple had left and used the power outage as an advantage to break in again.
So they invaded the house twice.
Their amount of brain cells are the 8th wonder of the world.
So what did Susie do when they broke in?
In all honesty, I'm pretty sure she could have whooped them, but instead she called Richard.
Shouldn't she have called the police?
I guess she had the same mindset of a horror movie character.
Hilarious.
Anyway, Josh found her and took the phone.
That's when the police got called from Richard.
Exactly. Susie tried to run, but Josh and Johnny were able to hold her down. She started screaming while the robbers were trying to figure out their next move. That's when they heard clanging from the hallway.
The Colorado Reaper, Adrian Brown.
It was that time of year for his newest kill. I'm sure he wasn't expecting 3, but they were about to be hacked to bits nonetheless.
And you've known about this for how long?
Well, since forever, I guess. I've watched each kill right in front of my eyes, and then there was the smell of bleach for days.
You had to watch each victim die?
I've seen the true face of mankind. Those happy faces of each couple I met was a shadow of their true nature. Mr. Brown was true nature. He slipped on some water that had fallen out of my tank.
So neither Susie or the robbers attacked him.
Nope, he died puncturing his throat when he hit his neck against the sharp edge of my shelf.
So it really was an accident.
I mean, you could say it was me since it was my water.
I could send you back to the aquarium for 15 years.
You know, I was starting to worry you didn't have a sense of humor.
So how did it all end?
I'm sure everyone is still in questioning at this point, right?
Your story definitely aligns with most of what we've already been told, so I'll take it as truth. You don't have much to lose anyway.
Whatever, just get someone to feed me.
You know, people aren't as bad as you think. I believe there's good in everyone, and they deserve to be happy.
You think Mr. Brown deserved to be happy?
I think we're done here.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes, Axel?
Who's gonna take care of me?
How about I take you over to my place? I'll help you with finding a more normal owner.
Fine, but don't expect me to help you with any more crimes.
We'll see.